And we are here for, I'll repeat it. Today is Friday, March 22nd, 2024. And we are gathered for a morning program discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are online here. I think that's Ramachandra Prabhu is just walking in. Hare Krishna. I think we have Hari Gopal, Dira Govinda, Kim, Patrick, maybe Rohini, and the boys are there. And here with me, I have Danielle and Saraswati. Before I begin, I want to express my gratitude for Dira Govinda for giving me the opportunity to lead class, and also for Danielle, who's my rock and support and inspiration, and who truly loves me in the truest sense of this word to bring me closer to Prabhupada and Krishna. And I also want to please forgive any offenses I might make or inaccuracies that I might speak during this class. I'm experiencing some anxiety, maybe that's partly due to false ego. Stay tuned to talk about false ego in a little bit. But yes, I hope to offer this service to Srila Prabhupada. And we will begin with some, today we are reading text, Canto 3, Chapter 6, text 39. So that is 3, 6, 39. And we'll begin with some invocations first, and then begin the reading. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Gayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayesha vadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance on classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and by rendering service at the feet of the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In love and devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we'll begin now with the Sanskrit call and response form. Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Mainam api mohini.
Mainam api mohini.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Na veda kim uta pare.
Naveda kim uta pare.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Mainam api mohini.
Mainam api mohini.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Na veda kim uta pare.
Naveda kim uta pare. Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Mainam api mohini.
Mainam api mohini.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
Naveda kim uta pare.
Na veda kim uta pare.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Maya.
Mainam api mohini.
Mayinamapi mohini.
Yat svayam chamavartmatma.
Yad svayam chatma martvatma.
Navedakim utapare.
Navedakim utapare. Would anyone else in person or online like to chant the Sanskrit?
Ato bhagavato maya
Ato bhagavato maya.
mainam api mohini
Mainam api mohini.
yat swayam chatma vartmatma
Yat svayam chatma vartmatma.
veda kim uta pare.
Na veda kim uta pare. Ato bhagavato maya. Mainam api mohini. Yat svayam chatma vartmatma. Na veda kim uta pare.
Ata,
Ata.
therefore,
Therefore,
Bhagavata,
Bhagavata.
godly,
Godly.
Maya,
Maya.
potencies,
Potencies.
Mayinam,
Mayinam.
of the jugglers,
Of the jugglers.
Api,
Api.
even,
Even.
Mohini,
Mohini.
enchanting,
Enchanting.
Yat,
Yat.
that which,
That which.
Svayam,
Svayam.
personally,
Personally.
Cha,
Cha.
also,
Also.
Atma Vartma,
Atma Vartma.
self-sufficient,
Self-sufficient.
Atma,
Atma.
self,
Self.
Na,
Na.
does not,
Does not.
Veda,
Veda.
no,
No.
him,
Kim.
what,
What.
Uta,
Uta.
to speak of,
To speak of.
Apare,
Apare.
others.
Others.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others. Purport. The froggish philosophers and mundane wranglers in science and mathematical calculation may not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are sometimes puzzled by the wonderful jugglery of man and nature. Such jugglers and magicians of the mundane world are actually puzzled by the jugglery of the Lord in his transcendental activities, but they try to adjust their bewilderment by saying that it is all mythology. There is, however, nothing impossible or mythological in the supreme omnipotent person. The most wonderful puzzle for the mundane wranglers is that while they remain calculating the length and breadth of the unlimited potency of the Supreme Person, his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating the wonderful jugglery of the Supreme in the practical field. The devotees of the Lord see the wonderful dexterity in everything with which they come in contact in all circumstances of eating, sleeping, working, etc. A small banyan fruit contains thousands of small seeds, and each seed holds the potency of another tree, which again holds the potency of many millions of such fruits as causes and effects. So the trees and seeds engage the devotees in meditation about the activities of the Lord, while the mundane wranglers waste time in dry speculation and mental concoction, which are fruitless in both this life and the next. In spite of their pride in speculation, they can never appreciate the simple potential activities of the banyan tree. Such speculators are poor souls, destined to remain in matter perpetually. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, opened my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances onto His lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So good morning. Prabhupada is sharing with us today how wonderful the potency of the Supreme Personality of God is and how bewildering it can be. And he makes the point at the very beginning of the purport to say that his potency is inconceivable. And I remember hearing from Dhira Govinda, who heard from Srila Prabhupada in a previous lecture, that the first step in understanding God is accepting that God is inconceivable. And with that, a different epistemology is necessary, a different way of knowing. Trying to know God by mundane empirical research, which is plagued by the four defects of being embodied as a human, a spirit soul embodied as a human, it won't get me there, right? So propensity to make mistakes, propensity to be illusion, propensity to cheat and cheat others, and having imperfect senses. It requires Krishna bhakti. It requires service with love and devotion. And, you know, in the translation, Prabhupada even says the potential power, that potential power of the Lord is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord himself. So, you know, what can we expect of others? And in Canto 1 of the Bhagavatam, chapter 16, 26 through 30, Prabhupada enumerates some of the qualities of the Lord. He goes through, I forget, it's like maybe a couple dozen qualities. And he says that it is said that Lord Anantadeva, just to shed some perspective, you know, has tried to expound the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord with his numberless tongues, and that for numberless years together, it has been impossible to estimate the qualities of the Lord. So what to speak of mundane people? And you know, this Krishna bhakti, right? This loving, to getting to know God through love and devotional service, this Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada explains later on in the same canto, on chapter 26, that the pure status of consciousness exists in the beginning. This Krishna consciousness is not something that is alien or foreign to us. Just after creation, he says, consciousness is not polluted. However, the more we become materially contaminated, the more consciousness becomes obscured. And Prabhupada gives a beautiful analogy in text 22 of that same chapter, where he talks about water, as in when rain falls. He says that as water in its natural state before becoming in contact with earth is clear, sweet, and unruffled. So the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are complete serenity, clarity, and freedom from distraction. To get an understanding of what this clarity, this freedom from distraction for me, I found it helpful to hear an analogy that Prabhupada gives when it comes to a mother and a child. There are very many mothers and children that we associate in our programs, and Prabhupada describes this clarity. He says that the natural affection of the mother for the child and the child's complete dependence on the mother's mercy is visible. It's clear. There is no need of explanation. Prabhupada also gives another analogy about this clarity when we see men and women, no one's there saying how to awaken sex impulse. Like no one's sitting there, scratching their heads how to do this. It's natural, Prabhupada says. Similarly, Krishna Bhakti is our natural inheritance because we are part and parcel of Krishna. And it is only the external covering which checks this natural affection for Krishna. And this external covering, Prabhupada says, is called Maya, right? So I am bewildered. I am bewildered by material intoxication, which is temporary and fleeting. And I am bewildered like this due to my on account of contaminated consciousness. So as a result of my contaminated consciousness, I find myself identifying this material body, this hair that is falling out, this beard that is getting white, right? I identify it as me, as myself. And so the question then begs is how do I find myself? Like, why am I doing this? And Prabhupada states that this misidentification, right, this is due to a misuse of our marginal independence from a desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. We forget Krishna, right? There's a chance to forget. Because Krishna does not force, God does not force, like we have heard many times in our morning programs. If there is force, there is no love. And so from his love, he gives us this independence to act. And from this misuse of independence, false ego is born. This false, it is a basic false ego, right? This is a basic principle for all material activities. And all these material activities are executed by the modes of nature. So as soon as I deviate from this desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, as soon as I deviate from this pure Krishna consciousness, this entanglement in material reaction begins. And in the Upanishads, it is stated, therefore, that the path of spiritual realization is just like the edge of a razor, a shaving razor. And for men and women, we all have experiences of how when we are inattentive in our process, as soon as we make a mistake with a sharp razor, we instantly get cut. So the goal then is, in this human form of life, the mission of human life should be how to clarify this consciousness again to the pure consciousness of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. That, Prabhupada says, that is the mission of human life. To come to the stage of Krishna consciousness, but also to remain attentive and careful so that we don't fall down due to our false ego, to this identification of me, mine, and I, from which that is my connection for identifying and engaging in material sense gratification. And so in this verse, Prabhupada says that the mundane jugglers, the philosophers and mundane wranglers, because they don't have real knowledge, they don't understand, they don't have that sincerity, that desire to get back to our pure consciousness. They automatically reject all of these wonderful pastimes that Krishna has as mythology. And like I heard Purujit Prabhu say, they see the devotees laying down on the floor at the temple, bowing down, and the materialistic men and women engrossed in material consciousness saying, I see this person, this foolish person who believes in fairy tales lying down on the floor. Let me kick him in the head, they think. And let me compete with the other rascals, to increase my wealth, to increase my power, to increase my influence in this material world, because they don't know. And meanwhile, Prabhupada says his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating the wonderful jugglery of the Supreme in the practical field. And this example and Prabhupada mentions the eating, the working, everything, sleeping. And personally in my life, I've experienced a shift in my professional work where I remember moments in my past where I would get, I'd make a diagnosis or make a, nice treatment plan, or an outcome would be favorable. And I would say, oh, that's right, I got this. I'm the man, I'm doing it right. And I feel so grateful more recently that I'm able to remember in those moments where these days I'm making a right diagnosis, or I'm able to solve a puzzle that Krishna has brought before me, to say, thank you, Krishna. Thank you for guiding my thoughts. Thank you for guiding my intelligence, my feelings. And I'm able to acknowledge that, without him, none of the, I'm an orthodontist. There's a lot of puzzles, how to fit things together in the face and the features. So it's, I'm able to appreciate that it's not coming from me. It's only Krishna's mercy that I'm receiving. And that's what Prabhupada says in the purport. He gives this beautiful example of the banyan trees and how miraculous it is that so many trees can come from a seed, one seed, and so on and so on. And these are all, it's like that quote from Albert Einstein. There are two I think it's attributed to Einstein, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's either, there are two ways to view life. Either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And this is all being lost in the mental speculators. One of the main things that Prabhupada also says on this topic regarding what the mission of human life is, which is to purify again our Krishna consciousness, is that in Canto 3, text 20, chapter 26, text 2, Prabhupada says that it is said that by proper understanding of the pure self, or by self-realization, one can be freed from the material attachment due to false ego. So with this, the idea of knowledge, what is knowledge, right? Because we're talking about, philosophers, mathematicians, scientists. And so Prabhupada says that it is knowledge is what leads one to attain the ultimate perfection of life, or in other words, to see oneself as we truly are. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8, Prabhupada says this is also confirmed in the phrase tam eva viditvati mrityum eti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position, or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. So the key to realizing this knowledge is to hear from an authoritative source. So in the also in this canto 3, Kapila Dev explains to his mother that this seeing can be done by hearing from the proper source. So Kapila Dev obviously is the greatest authority. He is the personality of Godhead. And so he says that if someone accepts whatever is explained as it is without interpretation, then he can see himself. And so, like Prabhupada for us, right? We say Bhagavad Gita as it is, right? So what does Prabhupada say? What do authoritative sources say about the self, right? To see himself. So Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami the real constitutional position of the individual. Each and every individual soul is eternally a servitor of Krishna. So when one is fixed in the understanding that I am part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, and my eternal position is to serve in association with the Supreme Lord, that is when one becomes what's called self-realized. And so this position of self-realization of who I am and what my relationship is to the Lord, which is an eternal servitor, this position cuts the knot of material attraction that is due to false ego, of misidentifying with this body and this material world. And it is the most interesting definition of knowledge that I have ever come to across my whole entire life. This idea that when one cuts the knot of attachment to this material world, that is actually called knowledge. That is a definition of knowledge, is to cut the attachment from the material world. Prabhupada uses a term, Atma Darshana. It says means to see oneself by knowledge. Therefore, one is freed from the false ego by the cultivation of real knowledge. Because ultimately, right, like we are servants. That is our dharma. That is that thing that we cannot separate from ourselves. Like fire cannot separate, like heat cannot be separated from fire, or sweetness cannot be separated from sugar. Our eternal constitutional position is to serve. And we are going to serve either directly Krishna in pure consciousness, or we are going to serve Krishna's material energy and be mired in the illusion of being this pretender that I'm the proprietor. I am the owner of all that I survey. This is all mine and it is for my enjoyment. And so with that, it is interesting that on a practical level, my personal question is, I'm understanding that with knowledge, with real knowledge, hearing from an authoritative source like Srila Prabhupada, who's sharing to us, Kapila Dev, Lord Chaitanya, like hearing attentively, hearing sincerely the message of Krishna about who we are, without interpretation. That is my way of understanding who I am, and that is my way of overcoming this false ego, this connection that I have to this material body and this material world, that I am this bag of bones and flesh that is temporary, this bewilderment that I experience. And so I'm appreciating as well the process that is given, that Danielle shared with me in a beautiful song that I heard, which I would like to share in just a moment, regarding hearing from authority, hearing from the Lord Chaitanya and what he says. Is a recommended process, but I wanted to focus a little bit on this analogy of the seed and the tree that Prabhupada makes on this purport. It reminds me of a poem that Danielle shared with me on a podcast that he did a long time ago, that I keep trying to encourage her to post.
and it's called "The Oak Sleeps in the Acorn," and it's based on a poem by an author known as James Allen. And I will read it to you because I found it kind of serendipitous. I've been thinking about this recently, and I'm amazed that Prabhupada is expounding the miracle that Krishna is even in this process of the banyan tree and its seeds and how it grows. And so the poem goes: "The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird awaits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities." And I appreciate this this poem a lot, this statement, because by hearing Danielle sharing of it, I've come to understand about coming to our potential, coming to our own potential. And this world is very much a dream. And kind of being able to utilize what we have in this dream to appreciate that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is everlasting. I think it's a very nice meditation for seeing Krishna in everything. And so the question then is to how do I realize the oak? How do I realize the pure consciousness? And I wanted to share the verse that Danielle shared with me, which is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is a song about the Lord Chaitanya in the town of Varanasi. How he blessed Sanatana Goswami with these 5 blessings, and I feel very fortunate to have come across this verse that Danielle shared with me, because it talks all about what hearing submissively from the authority, with sincerity, gaining real knowledge of who we are. And in these 5 blessings that Lord Chaitanya shares with us, I'm given that process in a very practical way, of receiving this knowledge. And the Sanskrit here, it says, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shravana Mathura Vasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana. And the translation reads, it is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 128. One should associate with devotees, chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside at Mathura, and worship the deity with faith and veneration. And so that is such a wonderful process for me to hold near and dear to my heart, and to endeavor to try and practice every day. We are attending Mangala Arati. We are doing the prayers in the morning. We are reading in the evening. We are having a devotee association right now. We are reading the words of a pure devotee and sharing it amongst ourselves. We are singing in kirtan. Doing this every day continuously, I'm receiving faith and encouragement that I'm chipping away at that false ego, and that idea that I'm not this body. I am a spirit soul. I am a servant of Krishna. And what does a servant of Krishna do? Lord Chaitanya tells this exact thing we are doing right now, which is talking about Krishna, singing about Krishna, offering our food to Krishna, associating with each other, and hearing the words of the pure devotees as they are, as it is. In this process, we are getting closer to God. With that, I think I would like to open it up for discussion. If anyone has any questions, inspirations, pearls, or corrections, anything, please, I invite you to do so.
To share.
Yeah.
I really like this verse in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that you talked about in connection with this verse. I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and one of the points that I just feel like I really am excited about is, so yeah, we talked about it, like there's very practical, I mean, you mentioned very practical applications here. It's like associate with devotees. We can do that. Chant the holy names of the Lord every morning. That's what we do. Hear the Srimad Bhagavatam right now. That's what we're doing in the evening, in the morning, all the time, Srimad Bhagavatam, and worship the deity with faith and veneration. But the one that I was getting stuck on is reside in Mathura. But then I remembered in our early reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, like in a couple chapters ago, I think it was Maharaj Yudhisthira was speaking. He was speaking to Vidura, which again, we have Vidura in this chapter, so it feels like very parallel to me. And it's really coming up for me this morning that residing in Mathura, so Mathura is a place, right? It's really far away from us on the map. Like if I point to Mathura and I point to Pensacola or Alachua, which is pretty much the same place, in regards to like how far away Mathura is, I felt kind of like, well, how do I experience this? How do I actually reside in Mathura? But then I was thinking about Maharaj Yudhisthira saying that the pilgrimage places are made holy by the sadhus who visit them. And so I was thinking about like Achincha Veda Vedatata, like simultaneous one and difference. How like, okay, we can't physically be in Mathura. Like I can't roll around in the dust of Mathura and like have the ecstasies of like knowing that Lord Chaitanya's footprints were there. But within my context here, I can also be in Vaikuntha consciousness. Like it's a choice to have this be Mathura every day. Like by inviting Srila Prabhupada to be here, now we're bringing Sri Sri Gaura Nitai to be here. This place, like our house, Bhakti Oasis, where we live, our home temple, can be Mathura. Like if I choose to view it that way, I can constantly reside in Mathura. Like Mathura is a place physically on the map, and also it's a place that exists outside of like time and space, like within my heart, within my like eternal relationship. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's actually said anywhere, but I was feeling like very inspired by the way that Maharaj Yudhisthira was like, he was really focusing on, it's not about the rocks and the trees and the grass of the location. It's about the consciousness that place is being imbued with because of the personalities that reside there. So like this is Mathura. Like Srimad Bhagavatam is Mathura. It is Vrindavan. It is Goloka Vrindavan. And I have the opportunity to really participate in that at every moment. Also, just personally, I'm glad you chose to give class. I feel very supported. I'm really getting inspiration about servant leadership. Even though you didn't talk about it specifically in class today, I'm experiencing an understanding through just watching you, just seeing you, like you're devotionally inspired to serve Srila Prabhupada, to serve his lotus feet, to stay connected to the text in a very rigorous and humble way. It's a very inspiring process for me, because that's the leadership, right? You got connected to Srila Prabhupada, and now you're empowered to share Srila Prabhupada with others. That's the leadership aspect of this. You're not qualified to give class. I'm not qualified to give class. It's not because of our great, estimation as humans, humans here in the form of life. It's really about understanding, like what I'm getting is that it's really about understanding I am small and insignificant, but I am a spark of Krishna. And so if I'm in the fire, if I'm associating with the pure devotees of the Lord, right, the big trees that support us, to keep the garden fenced in, pure devotees, they protect the Bhakti Lata Bija. Yeah, association with pure devotees. Pure devotees, right? And so then from that place of strength and sobriety and humility, and really understanding it's not me or it's not you, then that's the leadership. The leadership is look at Srila Prabhupada. I'm empowered to say, look at Srila Prabhupada, and that's the servant leadership. It's not look at me. You know, I'm talking, sure you're looking at me, or you're talking, I'm looking at you. But I'm seeing Srila Prabhupada through what you're saying, because you're talking about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada, Krishna,
Yeah.
Krishna, Krishna.
Yeah.
So it's attractive. I'm like, oh, Gjergj is talking about something interesting. And so we might glorify Gjergj, you know, Gjergj just gave him this great class today, but really it's because you're just immersed in and giving so much Krishna Katha. You're just like Srila Prabhupada Leela. You're experiencing these great personalities, pure devotees, Maharaj Yudhisthira, Vidura, you know, like Maitreya, all of this, like these transcendental oaks in our garden that are just sheltering us and protecting us. So there's something coming for me about servant leadership and really wanting to explore that more and seeing you as a leader, seeing you as like the head of our household, which is something that I aspire to do. I really aspire to be more in connection with my constitutional position, because that's something you really brought up in class. Our eternal constitutional position is to serve, and a husband is the leader of the household, just like the spiritual master is the leader of the husband. And so then my position is to serve you, and like what that looks like in my own, and like in this connection of that's my leadership. My leadership is submission to authority. And so it's complicated and it's delicate, and I don't really have full realization, but I'm feeling inspiration and appreciating you for bringing that to light for me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all your sharing, Danielle. Yeah, like I'm appreciating your this idea, and Prabhupada talks about it, right? Like Vrindavan, right? Like people in Vrindavan, like their consciousness, they're just saying Radhe, Radhe every day. There's a magic is there, right? Like their consciousness in that place where Krishna's lotus feet touched, like it's the potency is pervasive there, and so the consciousness is clear, and also it's very far away from us. But as I've heard many times, there is no material impediment to Krishna Bhakti, to developing, like you're saying, that servant leadership, that service to Prabhupada. It's like, please, Prabhupada, let me serve you with love and devotion, to check those feelings of anxiety. And like we have in Savatov, our process is to experience our experience and communicate our experience so that people get us and then choose what we have. And I remember experiencing a lot of anxiety this morning, trying to give class, and I decided to chant some Maha Mantras and say, please, Prabhupada, let me do this for your service, however it turns out, whatever it looks like. Let me have some, even in the preparation and reading your verses, let me do it not to feed this false ego of like, oh, I'm doing something today that's like, has some importance or some value. Let me do it because I want to please you only, and let it be what it is. And I tangibly experienced some peace, some like immediately, like Prabhupada just kind of like washes away the Maya, like the wave, the wave of Maya comes and I feel the anxiety, I feel like throwing, being tossed around. And if I can I had some sense today to say that, please, Prabhupada, engage me in your service. And I felt some relief. This thing that Prabhupada says, like engaging in service with love and devotion. So yeah, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I appreciate your humility and saying like, I don't really have full understanding of it, but I'm definitely wanted to seek this direction more, to seek what servant leadership means. You are the instrument that is bringing Gauranitai into our home. You are the instrument that why we have Prabhupada's Murti in this house. Like you are, instrumental in creating this Mathura consciousness, this Vrindavan consciousness in our home, through all your actions so far and encouraging us. You know, like I said, we couldn't. We have these senses. We have this false ego. We can engage it in gratifying our senses, or we could hold bhajans to Gauranitai when they are here, and to Prabhupada, who's here now, that we do in the evenings. We could have a book club with you and me and Gauranitai, you know, to sensually engage ourselves in Krishna service. Without attachment, not because it feels good, even though it's great, you know, like it's great that it feels good, but to just do it because we want to serve with love and devotion. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bhakta Gjergj, for your inspiring class, and also Bhakti Danielle. I appreciate your comment. I'm deeply inspired by what the two of you and your daughter Saraswati are creating. Yes, following up on what you expressed. Yeah, the three of you, you're creating Mathura in your griha. And that's not just like something sentimental to say, because what you shared, Danielle, it's completely aligned with what Prabhupada says many times. And because like, okay, here, but like, and I really appreciate you. Yeah, you were inspired by Danielle, and you focused on that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya speaking Sanatan Goswami focuses 5 key elements. So 4 of them, you know, we can maybe grasp, you know, in a straightforward way. And then the Mathura one, and there's like in the nectar of instruction, like it's a short book, and it culminates in like everyone should reside in Radha Kund. And Prabhupada makes it clear in many places that Radha Kund or Mathura, that's not about checking the travel agent to see how much it costs to get a flight to Delhi, and what would a taxi cost to get from Delhi to Mathura, and then how much is a rickshaw to get to Radha Kund. So Prabhupada makes it clear that these are fully transcendental realms, transcendental to any mundane conception of, in scientific terms, since Prabhupada talks about scientists and mathematicians, transcendental to any sense of the space-time continuum in any mundane sense. These are completely trans-phenomenal, transcendental realms. And by establishing truly, not just in terms of externals, by establishing in consciousness our homes as a temple, with Srila Prabhupada in the center, and chanting Hare Krishna mantra, our homes as centers for prasad and kirtan and Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, then that's Radha Kund, that's Mathura, our homes. And then we can say, Kshetra Jam Chapiman Vidhi Sora Kshetra Bharata Kshetra Ginam Gayor Yataj Ganam Matamata, that this body is a kshetra, and so this is our home. Just like, okay, we have our home when we're in our car, the car is like an encasing. So this body is a home, and yeah, you reference that verse from Maharaj Yudhisthira in the first canto of Bhagavatam, when he encounters Vidura, and Maharaj Yudhisthira says to Vidura, just Tirti Kvarvanti Tirtani. He says, yeah, Vidura, you were visiting all the places of pilgrimage, and in order to get purified. But in one sense, that's not really the fact. You wherever you go, you are a place of pilgrimage, and you purify the places of pilgrimage. And so by cultivating that consciousness, that spiritual service consciousness, then we're living in Mathura, and our homes are Mathura. And I liked everything about your class, Gjergj, and just everything completely aligned with Prabhupada's Siddhanta. Appreciate your humble spirit of service. And I like, because yeah, I get nervous and anxiety, and I'm like, okay, yeah, how much of this, maybe 100%, it's about because I want to look good, I want to be praised, and then just kind of shift that to, okay, this isn't about me enjoying giving a spiritual class. This is about me serving. This is about me serving. Hare Krishna, Saraswati. I appreciate your points about knowledge, and yeah, I'm moved by how you were fascinated and moved by that definition of knowledge to pierce through the material false ego and come to our true self. I'm reminded there in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, really text 8 to 12, 5 verses. And Krishna, Prabhupada has long purport there. Krishna, he lists 19 items. That is the process, 19 items of knowledge. So you might think, oh, well, maybe he's listing the, whatever it is, the 130 elements of the periodic table. Or maybe he's listing the thermodynamic laws of physics or something like that. No, the first thing he lists is humility. The next thing, pridelessness. Next, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, realizing the inherent evil of being trapped in a body that's subject to birth, death, old age, disease, and accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So I appreciate that. Like, what is knowledge? That's going to be defined and determined based on our goal. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita talking to Arjuna, talking to us, that yes, assuming your goal is liberation from material engagement and realizing your true bliss in spiritual life and spiritual service, then here's what knowledge is, starting with humility. And if our goal is, to quote the soliloquy of the demon in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvaroham Aham Bogi Siddhoham Balavan Sukhi, if our goal is to try to futilely maximize false enjoyment from controlling and enjoying material nature, okay, then knowledge will be like, oh, let's study the stock market or this or that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Govinda, thank you so much. I appreciate very much your sharing and emphasizing humility as a course of almost like the passport to get the knowledge. It's almost like requires humility. And I remember the quote by Srila Prabhupada that has really stuck in my heart. Prabhupada says, he defines humility. He says, humility is being convinced without any doubt that it's not. I want to paraphrase, but it was like, it's not like my family, it's not my gun, it's not my bank account or education that will save me. It is only the mercy of Krishna, and that is the definition of humility. And I'm appreciating how from that place of humility, coming to knowledge, from the knowledge, beginning to chant, from chanting, developing more tolerance, from tolerance, then I can chant like constantly, and from constant sharing. And I'm appreciating how it's so non-sentimental as well. Like, it's not like, it's like I've heard you say before, it's rigorously philosophical, this process, and deeply emotional. Yeah, I'm also appreciating too how, I guess I'm having an ounce of realization, I would say, how engaging my senses in this process through preaching, or aspiring to preach what Prabhupada's saying, through reading, through doing service, like really doing service, selfless service, really like being a giver, and how, like, when I do that, or in the moments and times that I do that, like, I am not breaking the regulative principles. I am, making, like, it's hard, like, it's almost like, how can someone go and have sex and also preach? And it just like Prabhupada said, it doesn't go together, right? Like, but when I don't engage myself with 100% effort into the process, it's like, then I can see how, if I'm not engaging myself in service, then I could see how my mind then just goes everywhere else, and I'm dragged, I'm dragged by the senses. So I'm really appreciating the practical value of reading these transcendental books as if I'm about to preach the next day, or as if I'm about to have the accountability of devotees that and really like I'm really gonna take that to heart with me, like to read as if I'm about to preach, to read with that attentiveness, to chant with that attentiveness and that focus. Yeah, feeling very inspired. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I'm inspired by your realizations. Yeah, right. Yeah, we are Ghostin and Nandis in the spirit of Prabhupada. Yeah, we cultivate Krishna consciousness, and that's success in itself. And we do it in a spirit of sharing, in a spirit of sharing. I appreciated how you followed up, expanded on the humility theme. I'm reminded of that well-known verse by Lord Chaitanya, Srinara pi sunichena taroiva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. Just like it's a quintessential chanting the names of Krishna verse. Kirtan, all the final line, Kirtanya Sadhari, Sada, always do Kirtan of Hari, right? Because, and Krishna, Prabhupada often speaks that there's other types of Kirtan, but they're concocted specifically. Satatam Kirtayanto Ma, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, always do Kirtan for me, for Krishna, Hari. And then we can notice that's the fourth line. So we're naturally enthused and ready and capable to do kirtan 24 hours a day, to the extent that we've realized the first three lines, which is about being more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, desiring no respect for me, ready to offer all respect to others, in such a state of mind, then naturally we're just humbly, without that material ego weighing us down, we're humbly ready to serve Krishna always. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kim, I see Kim is there.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for class. It was really wonderful. And I really found the back and forth between you and Danielle just really thought-provoking and wonderful. One thing that hit me also is in the verse, it's in the translation itself, when Prabhupada said that if, the souls weren't being aware of their position, their constitutional position, they were perpetually caught up in birth and death. And that word really hit me, perpetually caught up, because I have this weird way, and I think it's almost not good for me sometimes because maybe it makes me lazy, but I always think like we're getting out of here one way or the other, sooner or later, we're getting out of here, and I think a lot of it's from the faith I have in the holy name and Hare Krishna and the mantra. And then I think, well, if anyone hears it, all the bugs, everybody, we're all getting out of here. But it just showed that word perpetual was just makes it so serious, we could very well perpetually get caught up in this birth and death, But it also brings me back to gratitude to Prabhupada for bringing the holy name, and, because I do have faith in it. And I think, just hearing it, we're going to get out of here somehow, So, which one of us would have heard it without, especially here in the West, heard that without him and gotten in, most definitely be caught up in the perpetual cycle of birth and death. So that verse, that translation, it really was, I don't know, strong for me. Anyway, but all that. Thank you so much for class. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Kim, thank you for your appreciation, and thank you for, I hear your inspiration and your faith in the holy name. And I also like, I hear the impact that that word perpetually made on you. And what's coming up for me is the idea that like the lifeline is there, like we've talked, like we're in this ocean and the lifeline is there, but no one can grab it for us. And like Krishna won't like grab us out of the water, like if we're kicking and screaming, like we need to grab that lifeline. Krishna loves us, so he gives us that choice that comes from love. And you know, if we don't do that, then I'm thinking about that analogy again of Prabhupada, in Krishna's ship, like with everybody on board and throwing this lifeline. And if we're it's and if we don't choose to, then I can see like then we're in the water, like we're choosing the water. So I'm appreciating very much your realization and that point about perpetually matter. It seems sobering. Yeah. Danielle?
I also, it's coming up for me, it's reminding me to really try to chant offenselessly, to really increase my chanting sincerity, because perpetually is a really heavy term, like sadhu, he's a sadhu, he's cutting, he's being serious with us right now.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada has said, like, we're practicing chanting. This is practicing. Like every morning we get up and we get to practice chanting. That we're getting accustomed to the idea of being able to really chant, and being able to chant offensively is not cheap. It's a really sincere activity. And so yeah, like chanting's always purifying, it's always good. It's always gonna put a sublime consciousness on everything. But then there's offenses. There's really severe offenses and penalties, and there's a lot of ways in which less than consciously and consciously I engage in those offenses. And so I appreciate so much, Kim, you bringing emphasis on that, because this is not it's not a cheap process. Like I chanted 16 rounds while kind of watching TV, or I did 16 rounds while I was walking around outside and just enjoying how beautiful the morning was. It's like, no, I need to really be listening to those chanting, like really paying attention to the holy name, meditating on the feet of the Lord, like paying attention to what I'm doing during the day. Am I really in that chanting consciousness? Whatever activity I'm engaging in, am I engaging in prajalpa? Am I turning on some kind of like mundane music and just kind of like zoning out for a while? Like, because the chanting is preparatory for the consciousness that I'm embodying throughout the day. Otherwise, I'm lost. I'm like lost to myself. So the chanting is 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I'm appreciating Danielle, that like we can grab the rope 5% and that's good for us.
It's good.
But let's grab the rope, and hold on, not kind of grab, kind of let go, kind of, yeah. So I'm really appreciating you practically focus it in on the what's my consciousness, where's my attention.
It's a good reminder for me. I appreciate Kim bringing this up.
Yeah.
Chanting is not easy. It's not and also it's completely sublime, and there's no rules and regulations around it. And also there's a lot of like rules and regulations. There's also a lot of rules and regulations depending on what we need to be supported in that pure offenseless chanting.
Yeah, and I'm also, with your sharing, I'm feeling inspired. I remember something that Purujit said in one of his lectures, where, because there's the chanting and then there's also the following the regulative principles. And I remember it struck me how like the message he was saying was like like how sincere am I in my vows? Like I'm getting initiation. How sincere am I in my principles? How much am I trying to negotiate with like with the spiritual master? Like, well, I'm vegetarian, right? So does that mean I get maybe human body next time? Maybe like, like it's I think I heard Prabhupada once say it's like don't try, do. You know what I mean? So if I'm experiencing myself in regard to my relationship with my regulative principles, trying to negotiate in my heart with Prabhupada and Krishna and being like, well, like that's a sign of like, where's my sincerity really? Like, where is my sincerity? And so, yeah, I appreciate both chanting and the regulative principles. you know, just following the spiritual master, not negotiating, bartering, like, can I get 5% of this? Maybe, you know. So yeah, that's this is very helpful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, I'm appreciating the discussion. Thank you, Kim, for that, pointing out Prabhupada's use of the word perpetually. So this perpetually, it's not like sometimes in the name of, for example, Christianity, or like, yeah, it's like if you're bad, you'll eternally burn in hell, like perpetually. So we could understand it that way, but that's a misunderstanding. So like the lifeline, you're using that analogy that Prabhupada uses, the lifeline's always there. So there's no eternal damnation in that sense, the mercy, the lifeline. But at the same time, if each moment, if I choose mental speculation instead of trusting Srila Prabhupada, if I choose sense gratification, if I choose demoniac mentality, and love means choice. So at each moment, if I continue to choose that for eons and eons and lifetimes, then it's not like I'm going to magically be liberated back to Goloka Vrindavan. It's up to me to grab the lifeline. I have that choice at every moment. And if I go this whole lifetime and next lifetime and billions of lifetimes choosing not to grab the lifeline, then I'm perpetually in that samsara. So just want to make a distinction between the false conception of like a cruel God who is like you have no more chances. Chances are always there. And then I like that discussion about so there's no rules and regulations. And I mean, like chanting the names of Krishna is just always perfect, pure. It's always perfect and pure. That doesn't mean my consciousness in the chanting, and that's what I'm understanding from Danielle. It doesn't mean my consciousness is perfect and pure. And so, but sometimes gives the analogy of like let's say if we have a log, a wood log, and it's kind of wet, and we light it. We light it. We apply some matches. We apply some flame. Okay, the flame is always hot and perfectly being fire. And there'll be some effect. We might see some smoke, this and that. Okay, but let's say if we have a dry log, then we apply fire, and then like quickly it goes into full flame. So to dry the log, that means in terms like a science experiment, it means carefully arranging the set and setting, regulative principles, regular discussion on Bhagavatam, Nasta Praise for Bhajeshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, morning program, and conscious about our association. And so to the extent that I appreciated your reference to what the talk from Parujit Prabhu, and I think just about 2 months ago, I was there at the Bliss Center in London for a few days, and so so to the extent that we're rigorous in following the regular principles, it's like drying the log, and then we're giving full opportunity for the chanting to take full effect. Yeah, but even if we're violating the principles and this and that, the chanting, the Bhagavatam, that's always pure. We're just slowing the process quite a bit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else have any inspirations to share?
Yeah, I wanted to comment about something that Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ramachandra, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, something that I really connected to when the talk about Mathura, and I think you or Danielle mentioned that Mathura is where you get to associate or association, right? So I just wanted to highlight that and how many dimensions there are to associating and different ways and different approaches. And yeah, it's a whole island of Krishna consciousness, and it seems like what a substantial one, right? Like by association, you can experience what Mathura is all about. So thank you for highlighting that there.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, I'm appreciating your emphasis on association. I'm appreciating also remembering our association during COVID, reading Nectar Devotion in the evenings when there was no association like to be had, and even though we were all there like next to each other, we couldn't be together. We were associating. So there's yeah, I'm appreciating the no material impediment to associating. Hare Krishna. Yes. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Bol.